Thanks for listening to episode 1 of Xactly's Payday Playbook podcast series, a series on incentive compensation, forecasting, and overall sales effectiveness best practices, tips, trends, and solutions. Today's episode is Quota Woes, tackling the challenge of constantly changing quotas. I'm Kelly Arellano, content marketing at Xactly, and I'm here with our resident sales effectiveness expert, Jason Rothbaum. Jason, can you tell the audience about yourself and your background in sales effectiveness design?
So I am a senior principal within Xactly's strategic services transform practice. I've been doing sales effectiveness design, which is compensation plan design, quota allocation, territory management, and design, um, and job role definitions, and all of that for over 20 years. I started off with the Alexander Group, moved on to Deloitte Consulting, where I was in their Salesforce effectiveness practice for many years. I worked in-house running the sales ops and compensation teams at Charter Communications, Adecco Staffing, Veridian Energy, Sonic Healthcare, et al. I came to Xactly almost 7 years ago to start the practice here. And the theory is that if you have good plans, good processes, you have a better overall experience with the software. So it's a more rounded service that we offer. Our team is a small team of experts. No one on my team has fewer than 15 years of experience. So that's how we fit in.
Awesome. Thanks for that background. And I know you mentioned that you've had a handful of customers reach out to you about constant quota changes, right? And how
Yeah,
to put this into play. So I'm hopeful on this session today we can cover some best practices that you've seen, some
sure.
solutions. Great. So what does that actually mean?
Yeah, every year there's like a wave of common issues that comes through. This year's wave is customers coming up to us and saying, we're constantly changing quotas. We have to change them almost weekly. We have too much happening. We're constantly, how do we do this? So when you have what I wish I had a shorthand name for it, but volatile quotas, constantly changing account assignments between reps, it has this domino effect through the company, and we've had a influx of customers this year asking us questions on how to rein in the terror.
Got it. And how do companies get there? Like what actually causes
Ah,
this?
well, the most common uh, underlying cause of all this is a large amount of rep churn. If you think about it, companies have these different strategies for their reps. And I know at one of the companies I worked at in-house, our strategy was to pull in reps with very little experience, really low cost. We spent a ton of money on training them and a ton of money on HR to keep recruiting them. And we fully intended for them to cycle through. For any one role, we used to have 200% churn, which means two people would hold that role in any year. You just have a massive amount of rep churn. That's usually the most common reason behind this. Other things that could go into it are incredible growth. You have companies that are just bringing on customers like a wave crashing into the beach. You you have you have to constantly cycle through the assignments. You just have an influx of clients. They have to go to someone, either to retain them, either to onboard them, either to continue to upsell them. You have to continually refresh assignments because there's another wave coming in, another opportunity. Um, I have had one this year that was completely out of left field, an underlying cause of constant reassignment of accounts. I just worked with a company last month that had been acquired in 1 month 3 times. Sorry, in a month and a half 3 times,
Wow.
meaning that a private VC gave it to a private equity company. which then sold it to another private equity company. And each time they had a different go-to-market model, which meant that they had to continuously recycle the reps, the account assignments between the reps. So within 1 month, 1.5 months, every account got reassigned, and it was a mess. So they actually approached me to ask, we have no faith in our ability to maintain our model. How do we create a system so that we could constantly reassign accounts and change quotas for everyone?
And what do you come to the table with? Like, what have you seen as a good best practice or some solutions to offer?
Before I go through some of the solutions, um, you have to understand how it impacts a company and where the biggest point of pain is. Like, hey, God, I'll make the euphemism here. Picture pressure increasing inside of an egg. It's going to explode at its weakest point. That's the same thing with a company. If the company has really thin capacity within their reps, they're going to come to me and ask for a solution for how do we increase the capacity of reps? All right, because you have all these new accounts coming in and you got to reassign quotas. If the company is going to feel it within the job roles, typical question to me would be, we're constantly changing quotas. We're thinking about making one team completely renewal, one team completely hunting. Okay, there are best practices around that. It's a way to increase capacity. Another exploding point on the egg would be we are constantly losing our clients because we keep going to them with different communication, or because we're constantly reassigning reps and constantly redoing their quotas. Accounts keep getting transferred between people, and the clients are getting really annoyed. How do we handle something like that? That's going to be a different solution. So within all of these, there's going to be kind of a portfolio of solutions that you can offer, including one or two that, as a former consultant, we keep in our back pocket as a little trick that we pull out that makes us seem like geniuses, but we had it in our back pocket the whole time. Isolate the pain. Picture the situation where you have constant rep churn, and the quotas are constantly changing for the reps. Their target incentive keeps changing every time they get new account assignment. It's a lot of volatility. Okay, are the account reassignments coming in just for a certain type of an account? 2 years ago, I was working at a company that had a lot of new clients coming in and a lot of rep churn. It was a perfect whirlwind of issues. And we looked at it, and their top accounts were not changing hands. It was only like the really small accounts. Okay, well, that's something to work with. You know what? We created a rule. Everyone gets one top account if you're an upsell hunter, if you are a renewal person. You keep that consistent, your white glove approach. Those don't get changed. That's one measure in the compensation plan, the big account measure. And that remains fixed. Then you have a second measure in the compensation plan called small accounts. We made the euphemism, the pots and pans accounts. That one, that can change. That one, we're going to do our best guess, and we're going to throw accounts in. We're going to transfer them out. That is the volatile measure. And that allows us to isolate the pain and pay on it differently. So within the compensation plan, measure one is for big accounts. That's going to have a minimum performance level. It's going to be paid quarterly. It's going to have, let's say, 50% of your pay there. Okay, that's solid. Reps they know what they're after there. The clients understand what's going on with their reps. They know who they are. And then you have the Wild West measure. You've isolated your pain in one measure. Now we're going to design that measure for volatility. It's going to have a low over quota payout because we have no clue what the quotas are going to be. It's going to be paid from $1. It's going to be paid, let's say, monthly. We're going to design that measure so that accounts can come in and come out of a rep's plan without disrupting everything. We've already designed around that. So we've created a compensation system to take into account all of that volatility with the account transfers. Okay, so in other words, measure one, big accounts, nothing happens there, doesn't change. Measure two, if accounts get transferred in, we've already taken into account that the quota is going to go up. We don't have a huge over quota payout. We've reduced the risk of huge payouts or huge losses in pay. It's going to pay from $1. Okay, so we don't have to worry about reps hitting a moving target as a minimum level. It's not going to jump up or jump down depending on how many accounts you have. So there are ways to reduce the risk from compensation. Another way to solve this this big nut here, if the issue is with the job role, let's say that we have a huge amount of volatility, rep churn, dominant share of the changes is going into a certain type of an account, we could create two job roles. So we could create one job role that's for little accounts and one job role that's for big accounts. And I did this 2 months ago with a client where they took the more experienced reps, put them onto accounts that were more strategically important to the company. Either they were big or they had the greatest growth potential, whatever it was. We said, okay, you get the these big accounts. We're going to change your job role, and we're not going to switch them around. And then, you know what? For everyone else, we expect that we're going to have huge amounts of rep churn. We're going to expect that, let's say, the volatility in the marketplace, that our clients are going to bounce in and out, whatever's causing those account reassignments. You know what? We're going to hand those to our hoi polloi reps, the reps that we don't mind if they churn. They're less important accounts. We're not going to really concern ourselves with them. So the big accounts go to certain reps, the small accounts go to others. We solve that through a job role solution. If the company can withstand it, make it a rule that there are only, let's say, quarterly resets in the quota. I've tried to do this a number of times. It never works, but it could work for certain companies. I just haven't dealt with them in a long time. But you say that accounts are going to transfer in, accounts are going to transfer out. That's going to happen on a monthly basis, but we're not going to allow that to impact someone's compensation or their quotas. We're going to do a quarterly reset. So situation, I have a rep leave, they have open accounts. I need to give them from Jack to Jill. Okay, Jill, here are your new accounts. It's part of your job role. You've got to watch them. We're going to roll it into your quota at the beginning of the next quarter. Until then, it's your job. Watch them. And she says, well, I'm not getting paid on that. Well, you got a base salary. That's your job. It comes with the role here. Okay. In general, the sales team pushes back on that type of an idea. But I'm less forgiving. Another one is to pad the quotas. Okay, what does that mean? You're given a quota. Let's say you have, let me back up. Let me find my footing here. You have 5 reps, each with $1 million quota. Those quotas roll up to a manager, and that's 5 million. That's 0 padding. Now, because we know that quotas are going to be all over the place and there's going to be tons of reassignments, I'm going to give each of these 5 reps $1.2 million in quota. And that 1.2 to the manager is going to roll up as 5 million. I'm not going to over allocate it at the manager level, but I'm going to pad everyone's quotas, give them a little bit more. And that way, okay, I have an account that's bouncing out of my portfolio into someone else's portfolio. As a manager, I can be altruistic and say, it's all right. We won't increase your quota. We'll forgive you for taking on the extra account. Just, it's now in your portfolio. Manage it. We're not going to increase your quota. Secretly knowing that we already did. we're we got to manage the communication on something like that. It's not like I would tell the reps I'm doing that ahead of time, but it's definitely over allocation is definitely one of those things you can do. Over allocation is typically for larger, more mature companies about 8%. For newer, more volatile companies, it can run up to 20%. It's incredibly common. Companies do that because they're going to have open territories. They're going to have accounts that are reassigned. It allows them to appear more altruistic to the reps. It allows the managers to be everyone's favorite person because they can constantly say, "Oh, we're forgiving you for this. Thanks for helping out the company." Another solution is to do what's called a sinking fund. And what you do is you create two measures in the compensation plan, and it one measure is annual, the other measure is done, let's say, monthly or quarterly. The annual measure, you put a certain amount of weight on, and you allocate a certain amount of pay, and you say that that is your overall quota. If it whatever it is cumulative at the end of the year, it was over here this month, it's over here this month, it's we add it all together, and at the end of the year, that's your annual quota. However you did against that is how we pay. It's going to have a minimum level of performance, 80%, let's say. You start getting paid over 100%, huge over quota payout. And then for the monthly measure, you pay flat rate. If you're on, let's say, an upsell or cross-sell team. If it's renewals, we have to do something different. It gets more complicated when you do something like that. So this would only work with the upsell cross-sell team. So there are different solutions to weave your way out of the morass of constantly changing quotas. What I used to see a lot, which tends to not solve the issue, is you would run two different systems, whereas you calculate what people should have been paid with the new quota, and then you don't change their quota at a certain point. If it's above or below 15% difference between the two calculations, then you trigger the change. That is a mess. Don't do that. If you're listening to this podcast looking for the secret sauce and the secret solution to solving your constantly changing quota problem, please don't do that. That is like sitting on a bomb, and rather than it going off every month, you let it go off every quarter. And it's just bigger. So let's avoid that.
We hear you loud and clear, Jason. Thanks for sharing some invaluable insights today. Really appreciate your time. And thanks everyone for listening to this inaugural episode of the Xactly Payday Playbook podcast. I hope you've discovered some valuable insights from Jason on what to do, and as he just mentioned, what not to do when solving for constant quota adjustment changes and challenges. I'm Kelly Arellano along with Jason Rothbaum, and we thank you for your time. If you'd like to learn how Xactly can help you navigate compensation plan adjustment changes during uncertain times, check us out at www.xactlycorp.com.